Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, March 19th, 2022, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, Will Buchanan. On the Frack We Got Here, we do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before we get started, guys, let you know that we do try to be a friendly affiliate podcast, at least most of the time. And also at the same time, guys, there may be some language that might fly, and also there may be some things that might be shown that might be just a little too graphic for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So let's go ahead and get into it for this wonderful weekend, guys. I told you Republicans are making moves, and we're not. Honestly, who's really surprised by that? I am talking about the fact that Florida's House of Representatives has passed a bill creating an election police force. And you thought the space force that Trump created was stupid. And trust me, this is stupid, as the Republican-controlled Florida House just this past Wednesday did pass a voting overhaul bill that did include establishing an office, and I wish I could make this up, the Office of Election Crimes and Security. The Office of Election Crimes and Security within the State Department, which involves its own office as well as law enforcement officers to actually probe election crimes. Again, I have asked this question many times. Why? And of course, for most conservatives, they turn around to there and say, well, it's to make sure the elections are fair and balanced. Why, whenever fair and balanced is said by a Republican, whenever a conservative says fair and balanced, I'm not gonna lie, I get stomach twist. My stomach just that's what it feels like. My stomach turns in knots. It's just like it's almost like when you hear a corporation say, we don't really need a union. We're like a big family. If you ever hear that, run. Number one. Number two, again, this is what the Republicans are doing, guys. I have been saying this since last year. Republicans are setting up for the midterms that are just 6 months away, and they realize since they can't do it at a federal level, they're doing it at the state level by setting up these types of hurdles for folks to jump through. You don't think that this Office of Election Crime Security won't pull something? Oh, it will, because, again, Florida, the state of the Hold My Beer Championship, the state where Trump is currently hiding in, the state where his hand-in puppet, Ron DeSantis, is basically imposing his will there. Not only on election crimes, but on the Don't Say Gay bill, which we'll cover a little bit later. But this is exactly what they're doing. Republicans are not doing this only in the state of Florida. They're also doing the state of Texas. This one woman here, who usually did mail-in voting, had literally had her mail-in ballot rejected 3 times. The first one, well, basically because she had the wrong form. So, Ben, because the new form required either a Texas ID number or partial Social Security number, which she did put in. But form number 2 was also rejected. Why? Because the information for her driver's license did not match the information that she had on there 46 years ago when she first registered. And then once she did that and got that changed, and then she got rejected a 3rd time. Do you want to know why? Because the county law said that she had required to put in a different type of information on the form. Now, that's 3 times the woman here in this article has literally and figuratively tried to do mail-in voting. And in the state of Texas, where they put in a whole bunch of laws signed by Governor Greg Abbott, have put in a whole bunch of laws that have made mail-in voting quite difficult. Why? Republicans, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Republicans are banking on the fact that if they dismay enough people to vote, then what they'll have is like what they had in 2016 when they got Trump, the same thing they're hoping for in 2024. As far as presidential goes. But in this midterm election of 2022, they are hoping for the same. They are hoping for a low turnout, which means low turnouts mean more Republican seats. And trust me, you don't think for 1 second that Republicans are looking to disrupt the House or the Senate, because they're trying to disrupt the slim majority that Democrats have. Republicans right now are playing chess, not checkers. But they are also targeting mail-in voting, which a lot of older minority voters do use. But because they make the law so convoluted and messed up, that it's going to make it harder. And the Democrats didn't actually help us by not passing the Voting Rights Act and the John Lewis Act, would have made all of this much simpler. Again, Democrats are going to have a harder time convincing voters to vote for them again because they don't have a lot in the win column versus Republicans who have to convince idiots with a case of amnesia to vote for them again as if 2016 never happened. I have been saying that, guys. They are banking on that. And we have seen live in color. That's just 2 states. Keep in mind, Republicans have controlled a lot of the South and other states. And you don't think for 1 second that election laws or office of election crimes or any of that kind of BS is going to show up in those other states? Trust me, it's coming because that's the way it was designed. And that's the reason why I keep saying if voting wasn't that important, why are they making it so hard for you to exercise your right to vote? So if you want to vote, guys, I am saying this all the time. We use the internet for everything else in life. Use it to learn the election laws and registrations in your county and in your state. The better you are informed, the more you are equipped to handle the BS that's going to be coming from these conservatives. That's all I'm saying. But move right along. I also wanted to cover this story as well because, again, whenever it comes to minorities, especially who are law enforcement, I have a hard time. I understand that people want to serve. The best way to serve your community is by being the changing force. However, we are hearing too many of these stories where minorities who are officers see the other side of their counterparts. What I'm talking about is this story here about the one Maryland Park police officer who was in a text message group with other officers and saw that they said that they wanted Black Lives Matter protesters dead. As he sat there and said, the black officer sat there and quoted, sent text messages in a chain meant to discuss work assignments. They also mocked, demeaned, and ostracized and humiliated him for being black. So let me get this straight. So again, I hear when people turn around there and say about law enforcement and back the blue and all lives matter. But whenever it comes to minority law enforcement officers, there seems to be this constant pattern of humiliation, of singling them out and dehumanizing them, as well as making fun of them in nature. I mean, we just talked about a month ago about four women in Baltimore who brought up a case against the Baltimore PD for them being harassed and singled out and basically and just many other atrocities. So I've said this all the time. When people say there are good cops out there, here's my rebuttal. You're right. Good cops are out there, but they're not on the police force long. When a good cop calls out a bad cop, you expect the bad cops to be removed. No, the good cops are turned to pariahs. They are shunned. They are ignored. They simply either take a settlement or relocate or simply just resign from the force altogether. You know what bad cops get? A raise, a promotion, sometimes even chief of police. I mean, we've seen this before. Like I said, when it comes to minorities, I even said it best that it's amazing to me how many people will defend law enforcement. I mean, of course, like in Chicago, Mayor Lori Lightfoot defended Chicago PD after their many atrocities. Let's not forget last year, raiding the house of a woman who was sleeping naked, and it was the wrong house because the suspect next door. But the woman was frantic, understandably so. She got woken up at the middle of the night with guns in her face as officers trying to ask her questions. Well, Lori Lightfoot, well, I think we saw this issue. It's behind us. And, law enforcement's not here to blame. Yes, they are. But again, I've said it best. Well, if you think you should do a ride along with law enforcement officer. To do what? Because if it's a bad cop, he's going to be a bad cop. If he's a good cop, he's going to have to walk that line. Because again, when it comes to the blue line of silence, the blue code of silence, good cops are never given the praise that they should receive. Bad cops are the ones that get raises and promotions. So at the same time, we have still not solved the fundamental problem of why do you have to train longer to be a hairstylist than you do a cop? Why do you have to train longer to be a plumber, electrician, a contractor, longer than it is to be a cop in this country? But you're going to sit there and tell me that there's not a problem in our law enforcement. Even though we have continuous cases of minorities out there still being harassed by so-called brethren of the badge. So please, Tell me again that law enforcement in America is not a problem. We got receipts. Moving right along, guys, today I want to cover this story as well with law enforcement as a former law officer of the law is now terminated, basically because, well, he put his knee on the back, pretty much on the back of the neck of a 12-year-old. Yes, in this day and age, that still happens.
Developing this morning, a police officer is resigned as a school security guard after he was seen on video with his knee on a student's neck. You may still find this video disturbing. A report from the school says the officer was trying to break up this fight between two students at a middle school. This is in Kenosha, Wisconsin, earlier this month. The video shows the officer falling backward and hitting his own head before then getting on top of a 12-year-old girl and putting his knee on her neck. She was arrested and later released. Her father said that he didn't know what happened until his other daughter showed him that video. The family's hired an attorney. The school district says that it cannot comment on pending litigation. We've reached out to the officer for comment and have not heard back.
So again, this is the one thing I wanted to point out. Number one, a 12-year-old girl and a man who I'm almost guessing has at least 150 pounds on her, still trying to break up a fight. And people are like, well, it's two kids fighting. He's only by himself. I said, yes, but what other reason does he have to put his knee on the back of a neck of a child? What reason? Of all things he could have done, he could have handcuffed her. I mean, it's a 12-year-old girl. You're sitting there and telling me he doesn't have enough power to basically restrain a 12-year-old girl? If you're a law enforcement officer and you can't restrain a 12-year-old girl, you don't need to be a law enforcement officer. Matter of fact, I think you need to find a different profession as it stands. But again, the family of the parent, because I know if that was my child, it'd be a different story. I wouldn't be calm about it. But again, they, of course, the officer being resigned. Of course, I love how the school says, well, we don't want to talk on a pending investigation. What's there to investigate? Had not those kids recorded that incident, would we even know about it? I have been saying this all the time. Black people might as well wear body cams right there with cops. Because again, the only weapon that we have in this situation, we cannot depend on the cops to do their job. We cannot depend on laws of justice to do their job without exposing them. And that's why I tell them all the time, I got no issue when a child shows, when someone, whether a child, whether it's an adult, when they upload it for the world to see, it's undeniable. I mean, I've always said it best. If it was not for the actions of that young woman, we would have never seen what happened to George Floyd. That's just being honest. If it wasn't for social media and when that young, courageous woman put that out there for the world to see, I'm almost certain we would not have 4 convictions right now. We wouldn't. In the same sense with Ahmaud Arbery, I think for the fact that if it was not for that video, I don't think that we would have 3 convictions. And that's the thing about it. It's holding them accountable. But we'll follow that story as it goes along because trust me, I know the family is definitely going to be suing. I would love to see how the school's going to spin this because trust me, they will. And we already know that the officer has already been fired. But with that being said, guys, we're going to go right back again to Florida because of the Don't Say Gay bill, otherwise known as the Parental Rights Education bill. And I've said it best, it's going to make it harder. You think that bill was not just talking about just race and sex from kindergarten up to 3rd grade. I'm like, you really? I'm like, and this is the reason why I'm sitting there saying from this next video I'm about to play, explains exactly how the dangers of this bill will actually harm those of the LGBTQ community. Check it out.
12 candles to blow out this year. With friends and loved ones celebrating the day Blake arrived.
We've known before he was born that there were going to be things unique about our family, obviously being an interracial couple, being a gay couple, being that he's adopted, and we always made a priority that he knew exactly what was going on.
And that includes conversations about a new bill that is passed through Florida's legislature titled Parental Rights and Education. dubbed by critics the Don't Say Gay bill. Even though it does not technically ban the use of the word gay, it does prohibit instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in kindergarten through third grade, or in a manner that is not age appropriate, leaving room for debate because it does not say what age appropriate means.
His first reaction was, does this mean I'm not going to be able to talk about my family?
You shouldn't be worried. There's tons of movies and TV stars and everywhere that are gay couples, and it's fine. You have to be proud of who your family is. So that's something that he has to work in and address it directly with his family, and then we're going to.
Marta Mesa has 2 high school students in Florida. She argues this is about parents' rights and keeping conversations about sexuality out of the elementary schools.
We don't teach anything about sex education in our elementary schools.
The Florida Education Association says this bill is not about children, but politics, legislation to create chaos and confusion, and expected to be signed by Governor Ron DeSantis, who is up for re-election and widely considered a potential GOP 2024 presidential candidate.
He's made it clear he wants to have a culture war in our public schools for a political gain, not based on what is best for kids.
It's not a culture war. It's about protecting our kids.
By us protecting against CRT and this Stop Woke Act, we're going to be making sure that time in school is actually spent learning and not just being targets of indoctrination.
The Stop Woke Act, the title of legislation now passed by Florida's legislature that would make it illegal for schools to teach students that they, quote, must feel guilt for historical events committed by people of their same race or sex.
Whether it's differences about gender identity, sexual orientation, national origin, right? The color of one's skin, these are all things that they're trying to block.
No, I don't agree. And again, as I mentioned, it's a fake narrative. This is a law for parental rights of little kids focusing on math, grammar, reading, and not about sexuality.
You'll hear a lot of them say, oh no, we're supportive of LGBTQ parents, we're supportive of that, but you're not, because you're clearly singling out, clearly discriminating against in this situation, and we feel it.
So yeah, they are exactly right. They're exactly right in the sense of, with that couple, it's like, you guys say that you're okay with this, but you're not. And this is what I say about the parental rights thing, because again, with that one lady there, I have to ask this question, and I ask this question all the time. What are you so worried about? Because you guys can't talk about sexual education or gender issues from kindergarten to third grade. Name a class that does that. The only thing I can sit there and think of is, for the simple fact of the matter is, just like he said, it's like, what if our son goes in there and and tries to explain his family? Because a lot of kindergarten classes do that. A lot of kindergartens have this, talk about my family moment, where they talk where kid gets up there and talks about his brothers and sisters, if they have any, or parents. And it's gonna get a little awkward if little Timmy sits there and says, oh, I have 2 dads. Or if Sandra says, I have 2 moms. Or, again, it's like, my mom, she identifies as non-binary. It's going to make things a little awkward for the teacher, because now it's like, that's a part of the bill. And that's the problem. Because the bill blocks things that don't happen. Just like with CRT. I love how they, you're not going to teach CRT in our classrooms. Well, yeah, it's a law school class. So unless your kid has magically went from elementary school through high school and got to law school, that is the only way that your kid's going to be learning about CRT. Aside from that, you got nothing to worry about. But I love when they say, this is a fake narrative. Really? Do you have gay children? Are your children LGBTQ plus? Because you say that because you think you're speaking, but we're not good. You know what I love about this? I love when it's almost like hearing someone try to explain why segregation is needed. Oh, I'm not against Black people. I just want to make sure there's separate. I just want to make sure we stay separate. Your kind stay over there. We're over here. It's separate but equal. But it's not. It's bullshit. It's complete and utter bullshit. especially with the Don't Say Gay bill, which obviously is targeted at a specific group of people. It does not take a rocket scientist to figure that out. But again, where's Florida? The central of conservative, religious repressed, possibly sexual repressed individuals. But they're so afraid of progress. They are so afraid of change. They are so afraid of changing from the old ways. Like I said before, it's a fear of the unknown. If there's one thing that conservatives are known for, it is the fear of the unknown, but refusing to learn it. They would rather ban it. They would rather forbid it. They would rather make it illegal instead of embracing it and understanding that this is the change that they need. Crazy, isn't it? Still crazy. But even more so that, again, speaking of segregation, it's almost like it's back in the 60s again, because California is basically sitting there, is basically becoming a U.S. rescue for transgender youth. They have actually did this. Democratic state lawmakers said they will introduce legislation to offer California as a safe haven for parents in other states who risk having their transgender children taken away or being criminally prosecuted for supporting their children's access to gender-affirming procedures and other health care. Keep in mind, this is basically in response to several Republican-dominated states, particularly Texas, where, again, you guys remember when I said this in my previous podcast, where Texas Governor Greg Abbott decided to measure that any child that does get gender process, which is basically blockers and hormone blockers and treatments, to any child under 18 is considered child abuse in Texas, which now, for a lot of parents who do support their children's identity, could possibly be prosecuted because Texas has a snitch law that carries a fine. So what is California doing? California is now becoming a safe haven. Why does it sound familiar? California was also a safe haven during civil rights. When the South was basically saying separate but equal, but we're not that bad. But at the same time, California was like, yeah, don't count us among you guys. We're cool with everybody. And again, this is the point I'm making as we get to the midterms, that Republicans are going to sit there and stand on the fact that, oh, well, we're not being discriminating. Democrats will sit there and say, yeah, you guys are. The laws that you put in place prove it. Because again, Republicans hate what they do not know, but refuse to learn so they can be informed. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But again, it's nice to see that one state is at least stepping up and speaking for this group, for the LGBTQ plus people, and getting them the help and legal shelter that they need. But I got to point this out. I am kind of mad at the LGBTQ people right now because, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, I have been looking. I have been trying to find information on this. I was trying to see that not only has a LGBTQ group plus chapter spoke out, has organizations spoke out, because one of their own right now is in Russia and is being detained most unfairly. And I just wonder why is outside of this one media piece I found today, has the world been quiet about this?
NBA star Brittany Griner still jailed in Russia this morning, and now the State Department is saying the Kremlin has repeatedly denied the U.S. Embassy access to her. Ariel Reshef is here with more on the story. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you, Cecilia. This is certainly distressing. Brittany Griner was detained in Moscow, as you know, at the airport last month, accused of smuggling hashish oil. Now, weeks later, concerns for the athlete are mounting as Russia extends her detention.
This morning, the Russian government extending WNBA star Brittany Griner's detention for another 2 months. The 7-time WNBA All-Star player was detained after video released by Russian Customs appears to show the 31-year-old athlete going through airport security near Moscow last month. The video then shows an employee removing a package from her bag. But despite being held for weeks, a source close to the situation tells ABC News that the basketball player is okay, saying her Russian legal team has seen her multiple times over the course of her imprisonment. The State Department says they have not had access to the athlete, saying that they are working on this case.
We are doing everything we can to support Brittany Griner, to support her family, and to work with them, do everything we can to see that she is treated appropriately and to seek her release.
Still, the U.S. claims Russia is stonewalling American officials from meeting with Griner.
the Russians are obligated to allow this type of consular access under the Vienna Convention. We're going to continue to insist that they allow us access to Brittany Griner, just as we've been permitted access to all Americans who are detained in Russia.
The WNBA also working behind the scenes to secure her release, telling ABC News in part, "We're in daily contact with Brittany Griner's agent, her representatives, communicating with her family, and our number one priority with everyone is her safe return home."
And a State Department spokesperson confirmed to ABC News that Griner is in what's called pretrial detention, but says Russia must provide consular access in those circumstances. Of course, we're all wishing for her safety.
Okay, so let me explain something. It's Russia. It is Putin, who more than likely does not give one flying F about whatever the U.S. wants to do. I have been saying that. And keep in mind and again, I'll say it's okay. Yes, Brittany Griner. I have been saying this about people. I said, look, when you people are traveling, whether you vape, smoke weed, or whatever it is that you do, understand these other countries do not play. If you try to go into their country with it, or you try to go to other country with it, you'll run into that. Now, again, I'm not knocking Brittany Griner for that, because again, some people, I was like, look, it's just the fact of the matter is, a lot of people sit there and say, well, she was dumb enough to carry drugs, which again, it wasn't drugs. It was vaping. Vaping is not drugs. I don't do it, but it's not drugs. Let's just call it what it is. It's basically just liquid. It's just basically fancy tobacco in a vapor in a different type of dispensary method. But that being said, of all the places you can get hemmed up in Russia, with everything going on right now, I'm surprised there are Americans in Russia right now, because I'm like, they're invading Ukraine as terrorists. There are still people flying in and out of Russia. Are you effing kidding? Because that's what I would be. But again, the one thing is, but going to this point, I was like, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I have tried to look up stuff about Brittany Griner. I mean, I was expecting the LGBTQ plus community to come out in support of her. I was expecting Black women's groups to come out in support of her. I was expecting Chucks and Pearls to even Kamala Harris, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. I was expecting her to say something. It has been relatively, at the time of this podcast, it has been relatively quiet. Very, very little has been said about Brittany Griner being in, and I apologize if I'm destroying your last name, but very little has been said. I have to wonder. Here's my thing. I really, really, really have to wonder, why is there so little news coverage over this? Now I could go into what Joy did, Joy from MSNBC, who has coined this phrase beautifully. America has a white woman syndrome problem, because if Brittany Griner was white, blonde, and blue-eyed, this would be everywhere. Don't believe me? Try Britney Spears. Wall-to-wall coverage of Britney Spears, getting out of her conveyorship. Free Britney, hashtag free Britney. The documentary about Britney Spears. Wall-to-wall coverage on every news station. And then finally she's free. People cheered as if they were going to get something out of it. What did Britney do? Nothing. Except go back to her life, which, again, amazes me so that so much attention was given to a blonde-headed, blue-eyed girl who, in no means, shape, or form, was malnourished. She was still well off. But now she got access to her money again. But again, wall-to-wall coverage. But a Black LGBTQ woman being held overseas, not giving access to her counselors in a country that does not like, in a country who's president right now does not like us. Crickets. What other reason is there? America has a white woman syndrome problem, and it's fairly obvious, because when a Black woman's in trouble, quiet. Prove me that I'm wrong. Even prove me I'm wrong that there are groups out there speaking on Brittany Griner's behalf, because I haven't been able to find anything. But feel free to prove me wrong and show me in the comments, and I will acknowledge it. But as of this podcast time that we're doing this, don't see it. But moving right along, though, I did want to cover some other news as well. Questlove, for all those who don't remember, Questlove from the Roots, is actually getting an Oscar nod because, again, the one thing I'll say about Black history is the one thing that a lot of us don't know. At the same time, there's so many parts out there that have been secluded or blocked from public education that when we find out these things, we truly find out how great of a people we are. And Questlove found this out with the Harlem Music Festival and his Oscar-nominated Summer of Soul that they're about to talk about right now.
50 years ago that was largely forgotten until now. For decades, it was a story that went untold. But thanks to the discovery of long-forgotten footage, the Oscar-nominated documentary Summer of Soul brings us inside the Harlem Music Festival. I got a chance to sit down with musician and director Questlove to talk about his journey back to 1969 and his first Oscar nod.
And now, here are the nominees for Best Documentary Feature. Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised.
Well, first off, congratulations on the Oscar nom.
Thank you.
Give me a sense of where you were, how you heard, your first reaction, all that.
Oscar morning, I just stayed in my pajamas and, just woke up and sat there and listened. And I'm like, So when they said that, I ran out in the hallway of my apartment and woke up my neighbor screaming.
When you did it, I mean, it's your first documentary right out of the gate. Did you have expectations like, yeah, I'm going to get that Oscar for this?
Never. I came into this thing so backwards. One, I didn't believe this event ever happened. And I'm not alone. Even all the people I interviewed, the reason why I'm so emotional when you see so many people crying is because no one believed in me either. Imagine that. If Stevie Wonder and Sly and the Family Stone give a free concert in Harlem, and over 300,000 people get to see this in the summer of '69. And there's not one bit of documentation about it. Once I got it and saw how precious it was, because the first thing they showed me is Mavis Staples and Mahalia Jackson. And
Precious Lord.
Yeah, the Precious Lord sequence where they're talking about this is the last thing that Martin Luther King talked about before he was assassinated. And I realized that, I have to restore history. I have to right a wrong. So this isn't even about me or about my ability to make a film. To me, this was my chance to restore the lost history of Black people, of something that was buried for 50 years.
That same summer, 1969, another big music festival just 100 miles away.
Yeah.
People talk about is this cultural revolution that is memorialized still today. And even when we talk about the idea of Black erasure, how did we not know about the Harlem Music Festival, even among Black people?
There's so many performances, so many magical moments in this Harlem Cultural Festival that could have spoken to me or could have saved my friend's life. You never know when that moment where you see something and it sparks an idea and inspiration totally changes the trajectory of where your life is. And, I still got to this destination without that film, but millions of people, not just Black people, but millions of people were really just denied what could have been a really awesome view of what we call Black joy.
I'd like to go back to the olden days. Pick a thing up for you. Simply goes like this. I got sunshine on a cloudy day.
Now that I finished this film, I realized that story is just as important as the other stories when you talk about the civil rights period, because you've seen us beaten down, you've seen us killed, you've seen dogs attack us, you've seen hope, but you don't get to see a human side of us smiling, having fun. And I felt like this could have been a tool that really humanized us and made us relatable to people. The fact that we were treated like savages, and this could have made a difference. And so for me, I'm never going to discount Black joy ever.
Strictly just on a music level for a moment, when I was watching, it was the Mavis Staples, Mahalia Jackson part that just did it for me. Music-wise,
What was it for you that you were like, oh?
Well, music-wise, I had so many questions because, you know, how do 15 microphones manage to capture so much magic? You know, my drum set alone when I do a root show is like 19 microphones. So music-wise, I will say that probably the most perfect presentation was hands down Nina Simone, which is why we saved her for the end. And suddenly the events that are happening are now almost parallel to what was happening that led up to the festival. And so all the turmoil, all the, you know, without a vaccine, there was mistrust in the election results. There was black, like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. So there was riots in the streets. And suddenly Nina Simone's fire and her voice became the more apropos ending for the film.
What do you hope that viewers take away? Because I think, again, on the surface, some people are thinking this is about music. When I saw it, I thought this is political, this is cultural, this is religious, this is about race at the same time. What do you hope the takeaway is?
I want people to see our humanity. For me, you know, we're just now, as Black people, having the conversation about mental health, where before I think like religion was the only thing that we knew. Like we didn't trust confiding in people about what's happening up here. For those artists, like to be creative in a time of turmoil, that's major. That's a creative release. And I wanted people to see the humanity. And I think that's what comes through more. Like come for the entertainment, but leave with an understanding.
You do the interview with Fifth Dimension, and they pose the question, how do you color sound?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you feel that, especially getting an Oscar nomination, does music transcend race? And especially, do we see an example of that here, that it's getting embraced by the Academy?
I feel that this music humanizes race. And I think that the common factor of any disenfranchised people, and this could be for Black people, this could be for refugees, this could be for the LGBTQIA community, this could be for women, like any marginalized, disenfranchised community of people. I think the common denominator is they're searching for their humanity. And I think what makes me different as a director than, say, a traditional director is that I have a different set of eyes and ears that your average director would miss. And as a person that's been in that position, where one night I'm with Wu-Tang Clan or Lauryn Hill, and the next night I'm with Rage Against the Machine or Beck, and you have to code switch. And, you know, I think any Black person like that's in a professional setting is very familiar with code switching, where you know, you're never at ease and, you know, your diction has to be perfect and everything, and you can't quite be yourself. And I'm really glad they dropped their guard to let me know that they felt like they were in a rock and a hard place where for Black people, they weren't Black enough. And for white people, they were too Black. And where do we fit in?
So last year, you were the 5th Black musical director at the Oscars. This year, you're going, hoping to take one of those trophies home.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
All of this is happening now is just, it's beyond my wildest dreams. But, you know, I still maintain that if this film wins the Oscar, then that's the beginning of this film spreading out into the world. So, you know, if they are to award this dubious honor, I'm grateful to be the channel or the bridge that led traffic. But that's all I am. I'm the world's luckiest traffic cop right now.
Perhaps we'll see that lucky traffic cop on stage.
And I thought that was pretty cool. Summer of Soul, I have to actually go find that because I definitely want to watch that. But I love how Questlove talked about that. Not only was this about this music festival that happened in Harlem, New York, but just everything that was happening. Because remember, this was 1969. Civil rights was still going. I mean, civil rights was still a very big thing. Let's not forget, You forget the rumbles in the South between Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and that entire movement. And this was all going down, and they still had this musical festival. And like I said, I love learning about that kind of stuff because I think that the more we learn from our history, the more we're better off being prepared. Because you usually hear me say my end statements. The more we learn about history, the less we are doing to repeat it. But again, just thought that was pretty cool. A couple more stories before we get to our feel-good segment, guys. I did want to cover this. That again, everything is going up, but your paycheck, even though inflation is really done by corporate greed and not by corporate greed and short shacking. But again, because of that, the Federal Reserve has again raised interest rates.
Officially raised interest rates for the first time since 2018. That's a move financial analysts say could help fight this raging inflation we've got. Let's take a look at the big board now. That's what Wall Street's doing, see what they're doing. And it looks like the Dow is up just a little bit, under a point. So they've had a rocky couple of days. But for more on the economy and what this means for you, let's talk to ABC News correspondent Elizabeth Schultz. Elizabeth, so what this hike in interest rates, the cost of borrowing goes up and things like that. But what it means for U.S. households and those currently seeking loans, like home buyers, who's going to be hit hardest by this decision?
Hey, Terry. So what this means is if you are trying to take out a mortgage to buy a new home, or if you're trying to pay your credit card bill and you have interest, you're going to be paying a little bit more. The Federal Reserve is raising the cost of borrowing money as a way to actually try to slow down how much lending is going into the economy, both from consumers and from businesses. So think about it. If you're trying to take out a new home mortgage, for example, we're already seeing mortgage rates go up. It equivalates to about that's a couple $100s more per month with these higher rates. And I've been talking to first-time home buyers who say that's a significant added cost on top of already high housing prices. It also affects you if you're a business. You're trying to take out a loan to pay for expenses. You're going to have to pay higher interest there. So part of this is a deliberate effort to actually slow the amount of spending that's going into the economy now, Terry.
And so how is this going to impact inflation? That's why they're doing it, to try and tame inflation. How does that work, and is this enough?
Exactly right. So the point is to try to get prices down. We're seeing inflation at these 40-year highs. It's making household budgets squeezed, everything from gas to food to apparel. Really, the equation that the calculation really that the Federal Reserve is making here is, are these higher prices worth it compared to the higher borrowing costs? And they're saying, we're going to raise interest rates because this higher inflation is a big risk to the economy, and we have to try to tame that. It's a really tricky line that they're trying to walk. A whole generation of consumers really has not seen interest rates go up as fast as they are expected to. The Fed says it's going to raise rates 6 more times over the next year. So ultimately, the question is if it can succeed in trying to slow it down the prices that we've seen while not causing a recession at the same time, Terry.
That's a sweet spot, and it is so hard to do, considering other factors that might be impacting the economy and the stock markets, like COVID, obviously, and the war in Ukraine. What kind of impact is that going to have? What should the average person be considering and watching at this time?
Terry, it's been exhausting seeing these moves in the market just in the past few weeks. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, we have seen dramatic moves, not just in the overall stock market, but also in individual commodities like the price of oil. One really important thing to remember is that if you are an investor with a 401k or a mutual fund, it's better to take a look at this over the long term versus those daily moves. That can kind of give perspective on the game. So for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, for example, it's down about 5% so far this year. But if you go back for the full year, it's still up higher, closer to 4%. So those longer term perspective is helpful for investors. The other thing to keep in mind here is that higher interest rates are actually good for people who are saving money. So while it does make borrowing money more expensive, if you have money in a savings account, you might start to see a little bit higher gains on those accounts. And that's a good thing for people who have a lot of savings built up and have not seen interest on that savings for a very long time here, Terry.
Very true.
But the one thing I have noticed out of the entire conversation, that I have been saying this, that, you're trying to curb inflation. I've been saying this, that everything has been going up but your paycheck. Yes, that's true. But the one thing they won't talk about is that corporate profits from corporations, your fast food, from your retail, from your grocery stores, record profits. Not just oil companies, which, by the way, are raking it in right now. it's amazing that if you look at the money side of things, corporations and everyone else on the better side of life, as far as money goes, are making record profits. Whereas those in the middle income and lower are having to stretch a dollar, trying to stretch a dime into a dollar. But again, I love how Robert Reiner, if you're not following him, you really should. Him and other economists have also the same thing. There should be a windfall profits tax that should be done to these corporations because, again, these corporations, I said before, these corporations are the source of inflation because a lot of these corporations have realized that, hey, we could shorten our inventory, still charge the same thing, and still make a boatload of money with less overhead. They started doing it. You guys see me talk about that on the previous podcast on the midweek review, where Bounty reduced its sheets. Those bags of chips I've been saying for years. Doritos, Lay's, those other companies have been getting away with it for years, giving us a bag that is about 80% air and 20% chips. The only chips I trust is Pringles because it's a can, but that's neither here nor there. But the point I'm making is that corporations have realized that they can shortchange things and still, above all else, get record profits. Why? Because they understand the nature of supply and demand, and no one's holding them against it, which I find interesting because, simple fact of the matter, I also sat there and said, people are like, well, why is the government doing anything? I said, you would think so. But again, these companies have lobbied very well in Congress, and unfortunately, lobbying is not illegal. So that is why, above all else, it's going to be very hard to get Congress to do anything regarding taxing these corporations, because whatever they tax them should be given back to the American people as a stimulus. But at the same time, you want to stop the high costs, you want to stop inflation? Easy. Look at the corporations and look what they're doing. And they should be taxed more. If they have subsidiaries like these old companies have, it should be removed. And above all else, there should be enforced taxes, because I guarantee most of these corporations out here that are making buku bucks pay less than taxes than you and me. So again, I just find it interesting that, their idea of inflation is to hike up the pay is exactly how they think to get away with it. But again, corporations will still make a boatload of money. But last word I got, guys, is actually, unfortunately, is involving our potential Supreme Court Justice, Supreme Court Justice nominee, Ketanji Brown Jackson, in which I knew this was coming because, again, like I said before, whenever it comes to the Democrats wanting to do a Supreme Court Justice pick, whoever it's got to be, and I said before, just because it's black, I hate to say it, but because it's black, you got to be spotless. People think I'm kidding when I say that. You have to be spotless, because you know why? Because they'll find something, and once they find something, they're going to want to use that against you. And of course, in Ketanji Brown's case, they use it again. They're trying to use it against her. Reason being of her ties to Harvard. Now you're probably wondering, because she was alumna of Harvard College and Harvard Law School, currently serving on the board in the university. Now, keep in mind, you're probably wondering why should I actually have that in mind? Well, the reason why you should have that in mind, because you guys got to remember a story that we did not too long ago that we covered, was that basically Harvard is kind of in hot water, considering a challenge to the school's admissions policy that was brought forward by a group of Asian American students that said that they were being illegally targeted and rejected at a disproportionately higher rate because of the fact that because of their race. Which again, that's falling into an affirmative action case that, guess if you can believe it, is still being about to be reviewed by the Supreme Court. Now, because of her affiliation, you would think that, maybe they're she's gonna recuse herself from the case. Nope, Republicans are coming out firing and simply saying, and I quote by one, actually, let me take that back. I would expect one to be quoting, I expect one of the first questions of this hearing to be, you're highly qualified, but a lot of other highly qualified people weren't considered for this job because of their race. Would you think that was lawful if it happened at a private employer? Which can be one of the questions that a Republican could ask her at her Senate confirmation hearing. I personally think it's BS, because to me, it's them trying to figure out a reason to basically make sure that she's not. Consider the fact that, Brett Kavanaugh him and his friends in squeegee and beer, even though he more than likely did actually sexually assault that woman. And let's not forget Amy Coney Barrett, who was ramrodded in before RGB's body was cold. And yet Republicans have the nerve to question a Supreme Court justice, simply put, because the Democrats are recommending her, and that she could actually break history as the first female black judge on the highest court in the land. But again, this is the rock they're trying to tie it to. And we really should not be surprised by that. But we'll follow that story as it comes along. But anyway, we're going to go and move on to our feel-good segment because you don't know how the fact we got here. We cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes we can lose your faith in humanity. But hey, it's the weekend. We're trying to be positive, upbeat. So we'll see you all out with a song in your heart and spring in your step. And this one man in Chicago is really doing his best to help with the gas situation. Even more so, decided to pay $200,000 in gas for the city of Chicago.
These are my neighborhoods. Chicago, my town. Yeah. I'm not gonna stand by and just talk. We don't see we do things to help this city here.
This is a good opportunity to help us to get from school and back home.
Now, again, I thought that was pretty cool. That one man who decided that he was going to do something great, and in doing so, decided to donate. Oh, sorry, played a little earlier than I gave it credit for. And this man decided that he was going to donate $200,000 of his own money to pay for gas for the residents of Chicago until the money ran out. And again, that's great. I have been saying it, and I'll never stop saying it. Random acts of kindness are what we need in the world right now. If you have the ability to make somebody's life great, whether it's a minute, day, hour, or lifetime, go ahead and do so. The world could use more random acts of kindness. And with the way gas prices are going these days, you can't blame folks for sitting there wanting to say thank you. But also kudos to that man that sat there and said, I'm not just going to sit here and talk. I actually can if I have the means to do it, I'm going to do it and just try to help out people. Can't knock that. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this because the next story is also a feel-good story because, again, college applications, it's always interesting to see individuals that, get that letter. I mean, I was myself at that point many moons ago that sat there and, you're nervous about the letter. You're not sure if you're going to get accepted. You're not going to sure if you're going to get rejected, especially if it's a school you really want to go to or just that you have your heart set on, that your dreams, all this can be done with the pursuit of higher education. And this young lady actually did receive her college education. And, here's her reaction to it.
Oh. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
I'm assuming that's the brother. The brother was hype. So congratulations to that young woman. Like I said before, Ivy League schools is definitely up there, but the simple fact of the matter was all you basically need is just that one that just validates everything. And again, I just thought that was pretty cool to share. Hopefully, congratulations to that young woman and wherever she decides to do in life. But the next story I got, guys, again, like I said, all it takes is a random act of kindness, even means giving somebody a kidney, especially in these days with kidney dialysis and transplants. Finding a donor can be almost next to impossible, but this one man was not only able to find his match, but to have a lifelong friendship with the person that decided to donate their kidney to keep his life going.
I have a very rare genetic kidney disorder called uromodular kidney disease, where over time my kidney function slowly decreases, and eventually my kidneys will shut down.
I saw that Steve had 2 kids, I have 3 kids, and just there was something there about his story as a dad. You know, he's a dad, I'm a dad, and it was as if I put myself in his shoes, and I thought, well, let's give this a try, because if it was me, I'd want someone to do it for me.
It is a wonderful thing that Chris was willing to do. But he went into this eyes wide open, very educated. He's a bright guy. And I think it's important for donors to understand the whole process and frankly, the lifelong considerations of living with one kidney. The great news is that a healthy patient with no other medical problems should expect to live a normal, healthy life with one kidney. It's always impressed me that people have that willingness to help people. And kidney transplant is one of those ways that it helps with quality of life. It is life-saving, and in other words, people who get a kidney live longer than people who don't get a kidney. And kidney donation is one of those ways that really can impact somebody's life long term.
Congratulations to you on your new kidney and to your new lifelong friendship and your kidney baby daddy over here.
The transplant team here at Atrium's been really great. They give a lot of really good information to make sure I get all my questions answered. They're always available, kind of laying out how everything's going to look before, during, and after the surgery.
My care team from, the transplant has been tremendous. Not only are they personable, but I feel like they're professional.
This whole process that I'm going through, it's not about me. It's not about a pat on the back. I want to share my story because I hope that it encourages people to consider being an organ donor, because it can help so many lives. These are real people that need help.
It's hard for me to wrap my head around, his generosity and to show my level of gratitude. And the thing is, the only thing he wants is me to just go be a good dad to my kids. That's all.
And I thought that was pretty cool, guys. He does kind of go into other stuff that I just figured you guys were interested in. But again, the message is clear. I mean, you give a guy your kidney, and yes, if an able-bodied person can live off one kidney, science has definitely proven that. But at the same time, the simple fact of the matter is, again, I will always say, if you can't be an organ donor, definitely be that. I am an organ donor, so if knock on wood, if something were to befell me, that hopefully my organs can help to extend the life of somebody else. So I will always be up for that. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. So I do thank you guys for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is up and running. I really appreciate that. Some shameless plugging before I do get out of here, guys. I do want to give a big shout out to my buddies over at Geek Salad, Ari and Geek present Geek Salad. A couple of buddies I met last year, and I can't wait to have them back on my Get Bit podcast. But in the meantime, check out their Facebook page as well as the YouTube page you're currently seeing right now. They do cover things in the world of pop culture and things outside of it through an unfiltered but definitely highly intelligent podcasting, which I have come to really like and enjoy. And as you can see there, they do have new episodes up. I think it's almost every Friday, but definitely check those guys out. Ari and Geek present Geek Salad. You can find them on Facebook with the same name as well as the YouTube, as you're currently seeing right there. Also, shout out to my buddy Vaughn, a big BZA who will be back to podcasting soon. You can definitely find him on Facebook at A. Devon Witherspoon. Of course, Big BZA on all socials, where he still has Smoking Trailer Sundays every Sunday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Of course, the REF podcast every Tuesday from 6:30 to 9 p.m. So definitely check him out as well. As for yours truly, guys, my Black Fox handle well, let's try this again. That was terrible. My Black Fox 447, which is my IG handle, which you can definitely find me there on Instagram. Please like and follow me there, as I usually post a lot of things, reviews, video game reviews, television things, and also gym stuff, because I do a couple push-ups. Also, at the same time, guys, I am all about positivity and moving forward. We have been through a crap ton of stuff this year, year previously. I just think that now we need to be about the motivation. We need to be about, motivating ourselves and being positive and helping others, encouraging others. And I try to do so on that page as well. Also, the link that you see at the bottom, well, we made it bigger now. As you can see, you copy and paste that link into your browser. We'll take you to my link tree that has the Facebook and YouTube groups for all of my podcasts, How the Frack We Got Here, Get Bit, of course, the Influence Podcast. You can definitely like and share and just let people know, as every podcast we've done will be uploaded there for your enjoyment. I'm still working on the other side of getting audio done to where it can be sent to other places where you listen to podcasts. I was gonna say Apple. I know there's others out there, and it's just the iHeartRadio app as well. But we're working on that. We're eventually gonna get all that to where it'll be posted up for the world to see. So I cannot wait for that. Aside from that, guys, like I usually say, again, if you're not already, please get vaccinated. Please get your shots. Please wear a mask, because I know the numbers are going down, cases are going down. That's great, but we have been here before. We cannot take our foot off the gas. We still need to be proactive and protective of others, not just to get people out of the hospitals and give our nurses and doctors and those in the hospital a break, but also remember there are people that still go to the hospital for life-saving treatments, kidney dialysis, blood transfusions, as well as those that are diabetic needs, and just a multitude of other things that most people do go to the hospital for life-saving treatment. However, their appointments get pushed back because of the fact of the matter that the COVID bed is taking up space. Once we start reducing the number of COVID beds, these people can get back to getting the treatments that they need, the treatments that they need to live ordinary lives. So, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We're not trying to change minds. We're not trying to enforce our opinion of others. We're simply doing what the news stations of old try to do: give you all the information, allow you to make up your own mind for yourself, but at the same time providing a logical perspective. We do a lot better as a society when we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to basically right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first Madam Vice President, who is Black. Now, at the same time, we don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's why we find ourselves asking, why is everything still going up but our paycheck? Why are we still electing the same type of individuals who do nothing for us but do everything for themselves? And most importantly, we keep asking ourselves, how the frack we got here? Thank you all for watching. If you're watching this on the playback, please comment if it's live. I still want to know what you guys think about everything we talked about today. Aside from that, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will all get through this. Peace.